as Trevor said, we look around our world right now and things are tricky. Doesn't matter what side of the fence you're on, it's tricky. I'm fascinated by, there's people in my world and in history who've been the most religious of the religious, and they're some of the most beautiful people you've ever met. Like, think the Mother Teresa's. Think that person who just is incredible to the world around them. It's not judging, not anything. They're just gorgeous people. But we've all seen people on the other side of this religious. The most religious of religious, who use that to hurt people, to justify all kinds of just horrible stuff. And my question is, how do I see the world? Do I see people who are, is it the religious component that makes someone gorgeous and loving and incredible? Or is there something else going on that takes somebody who's the most devout, the most caring, the most well-researched, but just a person who acts toxically? More importantly, how do I make sure I'm not in that camp? Jesus has this great story. There's a great story about Jesus, let's say it that way. One of the authors of the collection of Jesus stories, he used this one. Actually, 3 authors used this one, but I'm going to use a particular one for a reason. Can you throw up the first line? It says, Jesus went to the synagogue. It's like a church. Actually, technically, this is a synagogue. So you know what this is. I don't need to translate that word, right? Again, he noticed a man with a deformed hand. We don't really know what that means other than he's sick. But he's sick in a kind of way that Jesus can fix. That's really important to see. Since it was the Sabbath, meaning Sunday, Jesus' enemies watched him closely. If he healed the man's hand, they planned to accuse him of working on the Sabbath. Now let's just be careful here. What Jesus' enemies are saying is 100% true. Can you throw up one of the 10 Commandments? This is one of the 10 Commandments. Like the biggies. It says this, but on the 7th day is the Sabbath day of rest dedicated to Lord your God. On that day, no one in your household may do any work, full stop. I could keep reading. It just says, no, you and you and you and you and you, nothing. You can't have a store open. You can't be a worker in the hospital. You can't have a restaurant. Nothing. That's what they believed was important. And so the most religious of the religious are looking at Jesus going, 10 Commandment, buddy? Can you see it starting to play out? Religious of the religious are watching him going, okay, what's he going to do here? Is he going to break a 10 Commandment? Can you put the next slide for me? Jesus said to the man with the deformed hand, come and stand in front of everyone. Okay, so just a comment here. Has anyone seen that show, The Chosen, online? It's a story about Jesus. This is not the Jesus they're portraying. That's kind of John's Jesus. This is Mark's Jesus. Mark's Jesus is not really that, I better be careful what I say here. He's less kind and gentle and loving and a bit more in your face and a bit more like I kind of picture him flipping people off now and again. So like John's Jesus, the chosen Jesus would float in on his white robe and sash and he would do everything loving. Mark's Jesus is not like that. He takes his enemies who he knows what's going on and he knows that they're right. The 10 Commandments is a big deal. And he brings the person right in front of them. Everyone is like, well, what are you guys going to do about this? Fully in their face. Not okay, I'm just going to go do this on the side. It's like he's grandstanding the crap out of this sucker. And so he says, come and stand in front of everyone. And then he turned to his critics and says, does the law permit good deeds on the Sabbath? And your answer is no. Not you doing good deeds, not your manservant and maidservant. I don't actually know what all that means. Your slave. Not even your donkey can do something good. How do you get a donkey not doing good things? That's my question. You, stay in your pen. But they wouldn't answer him. Again, he's being very, very provocative here, folks. This is not like gentle, kind Jesus. This is like in-your-face Jesus. Can you throw up the next slide for me? Jesus looked around them angrily and was deeply saddened by their hard hearts. Okay, that translation is maybe a little nicer than it says. He's mad. But he's mad in a very particular way. And so he says, and again, this is one of those ones, if you have a part inside of you that likes to please people, you're not going to like this reading of Jesus. Because in front of everyone, against the 10 Commandments, he grandstands, puts them right in front of everyone, and then heals the person. Don't think about the healing. Think about him working on the Sabbath. Very deliberate. Very in your face. And remember, they're right. The rules say you can't do this. And at once the most religious of religious people went away and met with the supporters of Herod, that's the collaborator with the Romans, to kill him. This is not a little deal. This is a big deal. So what's happening in this story? Is Jesus just kind of giving them the middle finger and being like, screw you. I get to do whatever I want because I'm Jesus. Because many people have just said, oh, Jesus just made a new section of 10 commandments. It's like now 9.5 commandments. We're taking the Sabbath one and we're going to kind of put a few asterisks in there. If you can heal someone, you can do that on the Sabbath, but don't be cooking a meal. Don't be running a restaurant. Is that what's going on here? Just a new set of 10 commandments that are 9.5? I actually think something different is going on. I think Jesus is calling out the very thing that makes a difference between a Mother Teresa and a person who's weaponized religion to hurt people, to judge people, to ostracize people. I didn't see it at first. When I first read this, I just thought, he's being provocative. Then I read this book by Jetta Reimersma. It's called, can you throw it up? Altogether You. She's a writer who writes in the language of internal family systems. It's what we've been studying all along. Remember? It's this idea of a metaphor of looking at our lives through the section of parts. I am not angry, but there's a part of me that's angry. I am not scared, but there's a part of me that's scared. There's a part of me that's telling me right now, Vince, don't say something stupid in front of these people because they're actually listening to you. That part's really loud right now. And don't swear as much as you normally do. It's the only time that I try and kind of like edit myself. Other than that, like this is what you get regular Vince, this is stage Vince. I just try and swear less. So we have parts. There's a part of us that are very young, that got hurt when we were young. We take that part and we exile, we stick it in a closet someplace. Because we never want to feel like we don't belong, or we're too much, or no one's going to take care of us. We exile those parts. There's a list of the parts that often get exiled. It's not exhaustive. But when you're reading through that, you might hit a list and going, oh yeah, I don't like that feeling. That's an exile. And so we do something really clever. We have another section of parts called protector parts that make sure we never feel those exile parts. Can you throw up the next list for me? I like the angry part. My anger part protects me from most everything. If you're about to feel a feeling you don't like, just get angry. Go on to the attack. These protector parts, this is what whispers in our head most often. Last week when I had Amber up here, she had a protector part. She called Johnny. It's her addict part. When she's feeling something she doesn't want to feel, that part kicks in and says, oh, I can make this all go away. protector parts don't always think long term. They don't always think of what's good for us. They just make sure that we don't feel our exile parts. On top of all that, we have our true self, which is the thing we can see. Can you set the list? We know we're in true self when we're compassionate, curious, clear, calm, confident. We have courage, creativity, connectedness. You can always tell when you're out of true self. True self is the part that can heal you. It realizes there's a protector part. It feels when the exile is getting freaked out. But here's the thing I want to show you guys that's so important. Jenna Reimersma, she came up with this new protector that I had never seen before. It's a protector part that's tied into spirituality. I didn't even know you could do that. But this protector uses spiritual language. It uses ideas of spirituality, heaven and hell. It does all kinds of things in order to keep you from your exiles. You want to feel like you don't or belong? Let's just say that's a piece. You grew up in a traditional church, but you feel like you want to belong. And then at one moment, you start looking at the wrong kind of person and you feel a little tinge of sexual attraction. It's like, oh, I kind of like that person. But you know that the group does not countenance such things. The spiritualizer protector says, we don't do that. A question pops in your mind. Wait a second, why does the Bible say this? The spiritualizer goes, shh. We don't think those kind of thoughts. And then when the spiritualizer sees someone in their world, it's like you see someone in your world and they do something and you're like, that's not how we do it. This group doesn't like that behavior. And so the spiritualizers attack. Oh, don't you do that. Have you seen a spiritualizer in the world around you? The most religious of religious, attacking anyone who looks different than them. What if that is protecting something inside of them? A desire to belong, a desire to do it right. Suddenly people's behavior starts to make a little more sense. Because the spiritualizer is at play. Can you throw up the first line for me, friend? She says this, the spiritualizer protector will do, say, or think spiritual things. It will make you go to church, donate money, teach Bible study, witness to neighbors, go on mission trips, and otherwise do many good and churchy things. I like that, churchy things. So that you are part of the church. Right? That's what the protector's it's focused on. Do this right. Be connected. Be one of these groups. Don't be over there. That's unsafe. You can't do that. Can you show up the next slide for me, friend? Unlike true self, which is compassionate, curious, and filled with genuine love for the person with whom it's speaking, including ourselves, very important, including ourselves. The spiritualizer will have an agenda for you. This is the thing. It's kind of like a mixing pot of other protectors. The spiritualizer will say you're not doing it right. People who do it like that go to hell. Anyone have those thoughts in your head? People say, I want to be at Friend Church, but like, is there a quick prayer I should say just in case Friend Church is wrong? That's your spiritualizer. We called it fire insurance, but no, it's a spiritualizer going, okay, but that's nice that they talk about that. Okay, but like, this stuff's going to be really bad, right? Perfectionist, impossible standards. How many people have this framing of you can never earn your way to being loved? It's just another protector. It's trying to get you to behave a certain way. Thinly veiled, a righteous judgment, shaming, critic, judge. Okay, that's just half our world right now. You know this will be uncomfortable with messy human experience and negative emotions, and that makes perfect sense because the whole job of our protector part is to make sure that we never feel those horrible, horrible feelings. Have you seen the spiritualizer active in people around you? Jesus, I think, when I look through this lens, looks at the most religious of the religious people. And I don't think he sees his enemies anymore. That's how I first saw it, his enemies. I think what he sees, or at least this way, the way I read it, is he sees a bunch of people in the grips of a spiritualizer protector. And he pokes that protector right in the eye. Look at me. I'm breaking the 10 Commandments. Not as a way to say, hey, we have a new section of rules that the spiritualizer locks into, but is saying, wait a second, what if you're in the grips of something else? What if that's running your life right now? What would it be like to be free of a spiritualizer? Not only in our lives, because I got one. As soon as she said it, I was like, oh, that's the voice of my Sunday school teacher right there. And the flannel graph. And every judgy voice I have in my head around religion. In fact, if I'm honest with you guys, I've had a Friends Church spiritualizer for many years. It was not nice. It was a very, very highly biblically educated weapon that anybody who I didn't like or who didn't agree with my interpretation of the Bible, it would attack. And it knew a lot. And it knew all their arguments. And it knew the holes in their arguments. It was not nice. I left people in tears. I left people questioning their faith, a faith that mattered to them. My spiritualizer was not in curiosity. It was in take them down because they are annoying to you. How does it switch when you can start to see the spiritualizer in the world around you? Today, I want to talk with somebody who's engaged the spiritualizer, who can see it play out in their life, and who ultimately transcended. I'm going to use a really weird word, alchemized it. Have you ever heard that word? Turning from one thing to another. From something that was hurtful to something kind of beautiful. You guys know her. She sings in our band, plays drums, and does about 16 other things at the same time. Would you please welcome Kyla? Hey, Kyla. Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay.
Put this,
Yeah, why don't we throw the stool in there?
in case.
Perfect.
I hope that's okay.
Everyone, this is Kyla. You'll know her again.
Hi.
Multi-instrumentalist at the same time. Incredible. Before we kind of go in, I just want to take you right back to your childhood. We're going to jump right in because we all understand parts.
Yeah.
We've done this stuff enough. Tell me about your growing up experience, what your household felt like when you were really young.
So I'm thinking about when I was probably like 5 or 6 years old. Yeah, really like little, lots of big curly hair.
I had that too.
Yeah. Bouncy and like have a lot of energy. And, I just loved life. I thought it was great. So, I was like bouncy, happy kid. And living in my household, though, it was heavy. It was tense. And there was sort of this kind of cloud of sort of misery. Living with my parents. My parents were, they had a lot to deal with. And my dad, who was a police officer, also was a drinker. Okay. And those two things really caused a lot of stress and difficulty for our family. So it just felt really scary, tense, heavy.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that little part of you still has that feeling in that family kind of environment of not safe, not relaxed, but like on edge.
Yeah. Yeah. I needed to sort of keep an eye out all the time. See who I'm going to get, see who I'm coming home to, see what my parents were going to kind of be like, what the climate was like.
Right.
Yeah.
So there was you, the little part of you, and then there was the vigilant part that's like, I need to pay attention because this is high risk here.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
You told me a story about walking down the street to find a church. Do
Yeah.
you mind sharing it with them?
Okay.
We had a chat before, so I kind of know bits of the story.
Yeah. So I lived on a street that had a church at the end of it, and every week the whole street would fill up with cars because everyone was going to church on Sunday. And so I would just watch people getting out and going down. And I thought to myself that I would really like to go to church.
Why?
I needed to find some way. So it was like bouncy little Kyla, very heavy, very sort of scary sort of environment at home. And I was like, I need to find somewhere that I can find something better or find something, to like be happy about, be joyful about. Find some kind of way to live. Yeah, I was really aware of that even at 6.
Really?
Yeah.
So home was chaos, scary. It's like church was this like, well, maybe it's nice and maybe relax and maybe they got their stuff figured out or something like that?
Yes.
This is more healthy.
Yeah, and when I would go there, I would sit next to the woman who played organ, and she would open her bag and she would go in and pull out a little tissue, and inside the tissue she'd have those little Scotch mints, and she'd give me a mint. And then she'd open the hymnal, like when she wasn't playing, she'd open the hymnal and she'd like go along and read and so I felt just like, and the light would stream in from the, and it felt like a refuge. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we have a really difficult home life. The little Kyla's trying to find that, the little person of you is trying to find a place to be safe, to feel comfortable. The Scotch mint lady wasn't weird. That was super cool. Mm-hmm. Nowadays, giving kids candies, I don't know. I'll let that go. Different time, right?
Yeah.
Fast forward to early teenager. You've been part of church now for many years.
Yeah.
Your family wasn't part of it, right?
No.
This was a you thing.
Right. In fact, they were kind of put off by it. They were like, you can go there, but just tell them not to come to our house.
Okay.
Yeah. They were like, we don't mind, but if they think they're going to come down here and talk to us, just you tell them no.
Yeah, it's
Stop.
just no.
You want that, that's fine. And
Right.
it continued all through. My parents were really uncomfortable.
Okay.
Mostly my mom. My dad sort of,
Okay.
yeah.
So fast forward, you've been in the church for years now.
Yeah.
You were kind of this, what was it, a specialized group of kind of teens?
Oh, yeah. I belonged to a very special group of teens. We had sort of this special status in our community where we were able to communicate this movement of God that was happening.
Okay.
And we went to different churches to offer this by praying for people. And they were like, here come the youth from this church, and they have this blessing, and they're going to give it to you. We are ready. Oh my goodness, it's going to be amazing. And then we would come in.
Okay, but it's interesting, as you talked, you started going to church, it felt, you kind of talked as like, I'm this little kid, I'm an outsider.
Yeah.
Now it feels like, oh, I am dead center.
I've got it. Yes, I have the answers. I've done it right. All my friends are the people who belong to this group. Yes.
When you hear that term, spiritualizer protector, does it feel like that was a time when you had that protector was in play for you?
Yes.
Okay. And it
Yes.
felt, what did it do for you?
I felt this level of self-assurance. I felt like I could maybe go and be part of this same group.
Okay.
Like actually anywhere in the world. When I spent a little bit of time traveling, I thought, well, I could just rock up to any like, people, like any church where they understood
Your kind of church.
this.
Yeah, your kind of church.
I can speak the
You belong.
language. And there was very specific language, and I
Okay.
had it all.
Right.
And it was just like,
You belong.
I belong.
Like you're right in the dead center.
yeah, yes.
And that felt,
It just, it felt like I finally belonged somewhere. It felt like I finally belonged. Yeah,
that's pretty beautiful. And again,
it was actually.
this protector part, it's trying to do something. As you can see from a person who didn't feel like, you can see it at play, right? Now, wouldn't it be nice if we could just leave it right there? But the story never stops right there. Also, the eyes get uncovered. I think you're in Europe someplace, you're traveling, you're on a bus, you're listening to a sermon of all things.
Yes.
Tell us what happened to your relationship to that protector.
So while I was listening to this sermon, I had kind of started to have some questions about some of the teachings that I'd heard. Some parts of the belonging that I felt that excluded others were starting to feel really uncomfortable, and people that I cared about didn't fit in. And that, like, having to sort of examine these beliefs more closely. And so I'm listening to this guy talk, and he challenged the belief that I might be sort of taken up with all the other Christians in what would be understood as like the rapture teaching.
Quick, for those of you who didn't grow up with this.
If you know about it.
There's this idea, some people believe this, when you die, you go to heaven. There's also this idea that there's a certain time in history when all the people who are doing it right will all go up to heaven kind of like automatically. They call it the rapture. It just means like you don't die, you just like, it hits and then you all go up. Make sense? So put it in the context of that. Magically, she's going to go to heaven. That's what it means.
Yeah, and it was challenging this belief that I had taken to heart to such a degree that I wasn't sure if I should really plan for my future or anything, because maybe Jesus would return and then...
Rapture and heaven and life's good.
Yeah, and it was probably going to happen soon, was the idea. And the guy who was giving the message, he was like, well, that's not really the thing, actually. Really, you're afraid of your own mortality. This is the issue. You think to yourself, if I die, everyone's going to go with me. And it's because you can't bear the thought that the bus that you take every day to work or to school, today you're on it, but tomorrow you might die and everyone else will be on this bus, but you won't. And I was like, oh, yeah.
So the content of it, what was your spiritualizer doing with this? When it was hearing this, was it like, oh yeah, that sounds really good? Or was there a certain amount of, wait a second, what was going on?
I remember the feeling very clearly. And the funny thing was, I think I kind of knew this, but there was that sort of thing where I was like, oh, and I felt it kind of here, and I was like, oh, that's right.
Yeah.
I'm afraid that I might just die an unremarkable death. I might not have this special experience where I'm taken up with all the other Christians. And I was just like, oh, I think that's right. And my spiritualizer was kind of like, like it was really this sort of like
I'm not sure what to do here. We're not.
Yeah.
This is bad, but she's not paying attention
I
to
was
me
like,
anymore.
oh, should I swear? I'm editing myself now. It was like, oh, beep. That's what it was like, yeah.
When just before you heard that sermon, we often talk about our parts existing in a certain place. Where did you feel the spiritualizer part?
Here.
Here.
Yeah, like direct connection, just like here, like, yeah.
After the spiritualizer gets undermined. What changed?
Yeah, and I think, it was good to sort of talk about this. This is something that I knew there was a change, but when we talked about this, I was able to sort of see the spiritualizer say it was kind of like here.
Right.
And then in that moment when I had this like very clear sort of realization, it was like it like dispersed out into like sort of the wider sort of, I don't know, it just dispersed sort of, yeah.
So now you don't fit in your group anymore. How did that feel?
So I had mixed emotions when that happened.
Okay.
At first, I kind of felt ripped off and kind of sort of sad and angry and like almost a sense of betrayal.
Like the spiritualizers lied to me for years?
Yeah, it was like you told me that's all I needed to do. Or like that's what, I can actually feel it. It like feels so sad. I was like, but that's, I trusted you. I counted on you.
And you let me down.
And you let me down.
No, even you said betrayed me.
It felt like a betrayal. I was like, I thought that would be the thing. Like, I did all this stuff. I had everything checked off.
I said all the right things. I did all the right things. When you were in the groups of the spiritualizer, how did you see people outside of your group?
I saw them as people who were lost and needed to be saved. They didn't have what I had. And they needed it desperately because otherwise they would go to hell. And so they really desperately needed
So I needed to do something.
The message, or the thing that I had. They had to have it.
After the spiritualizer kind of dissipated, how did you see the world around you?
I felt then a real sense of like, oh, I think that I might have a belonging now. And I now belong to the entire human race, but I also thought that they were like a little bit dirty.
Spiritualizers.
Isn't that funny? I was like, wow,
right.
There are a lot of them though, and I don't know how I feel about that. I am belonging to this group of like everyone, and I was like, isn't that funny? Yeah.
Does the voice of the spiritualizer ever come in now, like the old spiritualizer? Do you ever have a glimpse of that voice, or is it just gone?
Oh, I do. Yeah, I do. Because sometimes I see people employing some of those same, like in-out kind of like messages.
Right.
And I feel quite judgmental towards them at times because I think I did that too. And it was really painful. It really hurt other people. And you're an a-hole. So I do. I feel that like kind of it rises in me and I'm like,
Right. It's almost like it picked a different team now, and now it's attacking the old
Yeah,
group.
and I want to judge them as less than because I figured that out when I was like 16, and now here you are. And so sometimes it comes up, and I hear it, and I'm like, oh, hey, hi there. Self-righteousness does feel really good.
It does.
So, I notice it, yeah.
It does. When you see people now in the world, in the grips of their spiritualizer, what comes up in you?
I can actually like kind of feel it. I'm just like, oh yeah, I think. It actually helps me to connect to like my own like longing to belong, right? And so I see that.
So you can see the peace underneath the peace.
I see the peace underneath the peace, and I think, oh yeah, there is that deep longing to be seen, to be known.
To be special.
To be special, yes, to be special, yeah.
I find now I have more compassion when I see the spiritualizer. Does that hit you too?
Yeah.
Folks, let's give her a big round of applause.
Thank you.
That was so good.
Thanks.
What if there's a part that's trying to keep us in the group, that's trying to do it right? Hey, Chantel, can you just mute her mic for me? What if there's a part inside of us, inside of the world around us? What would it look like to see that part? And just like we handle all protectors, we don't villainize it, we don't attack it. Vince, you don't attack it. We say, thank you for trying to protect me. But I don't think I need that anymore. Thank you for trying to keep me in the group. Thank you for trying to make me feel special. Thank you for trying to make sure I do it right. Thank you, but I don't need that anymore. And then because Friend Church is about inspiring us to a healthy spirituality that takes water, it's not just about me. It's not just about you. It's about how we treat the world. How do you treat the person who's in the grips of their spiritualizer, who's attacking you? This is a hard one for me. Can you see, like Kyla says, I can see under the voice of attack. I can see under the voice of judgmentalism. I can see under the voice of, I have it all figured out. And I can see a little exiled part that just is desperate to be a part of something. Desperate to show the world around them, I'm doing this right. Can we have compassion for the people on that part of their journey? I don't know about you, but this whole parts business has changed how I see my spirituality. I've always talked about loving my neighbor. That's nice. When I'm in the grips of a protector part, I'm not that loving. I like to tell my wife I'm instructional. When I'm yelling at someone out the window, that's good, right? That's a positive, right? No, I'm not. I'm completely hijacked. Someone cutting me off hits me at this deep level and I just lose my mind. You've probably felt it too, different moments of your life where all of a sudden something flares and you act or react in a way you're going, that is not even me. If we think that loving our neighbor, loving our partners, loving ourselves. You know, friend, when you have a second, can you find our spiritual model? We talk about this I against them, we taking water business. I'm realizing when I look at it through parts, that's inside of me. There's me and there's parts of me that I hate. And this work is teaching me how to bring them into love, into taking care of them so that I have capacity outside of this, so I can do the whole model again outside of myself. The part I can't deal with inside of me, let's be honest, I can't deal with you either. The other day, someone went through something similar to the divorce I had, and I just remember hearing the words coming out of my mouth going, wow, I'm living through my divorce right now, talking to you, because I can't deal with that. Could it be that in healing ourselves, in finding the we inside of ourselves, we create the capacity to heal the world around us and love them? Jesus pokes him in the eye and says, hey, I think your spiritualizer is running the show here. Maybe we should love. Maybe we have the skills now to love. Technically, this is the last week of the series. Let's just a big round of applause for all the people who shared their stories with us. Kyla, Amber, Lori, Dana. Incredible. Next week, we're going to hear an update from Mexico. Then we have Easter. Then we're going to start another series. That's just part 2 of this series. Can you throw it up for me, Fran? Recognizing the voices of our protector parts. No, they're not just your anger. No, they're not just speaking truth. No, this isn't just wisdom. When you hear about the black and white thinking that you see in the world around us, that you're in this group, we're in this group. This happens, and we're living in 5 years from now when the whole world is, post-apocalyptic, and we're all hunting for our own food, and I'm buying a gun because I'm like, well, I need to learn how to hunt because something happened, a tariff happened, and now I'm buying a gun because 5 years from now I got to hunt for my food. I'm a Mennonite. We don't do that. How much of our thinking is just protectors? And when you can hear it, one of my big tells is, if I call somebody a name, that person is a tyrant. That person is an a-hole. As soon as I do that, a protector's taken over me and going, oh, no. Once I can call them a name, I get to do whatever I want to them. I used to think it was the nice part of me. Now I'm realizing, it's just a protector part. If you want to live out this spiritual journey, seeing your protector parts becomes very important. That starts the week after Easter. Have a great week. Enjoy the sunshine. Be very kind inside and to the people outside of you. If you see a spiritualizer, give it a big hug. It's working really hard. Have a great week, everyone.